Can you repeat what you said the other day, Malik? I am carrying your seed in my womb.
Aisha, there was never any future between us. I'm sorry.
All these young girls go around looking for rich men to trap my dear, who cannot use that pregnancy to trap my son.
Malik, I need to understand you. I did not impregnate myself. You did. So what are you saying? Poor people with poor mindsets. Malik said, I will be inside Aisha. He left her. If this story is already gripping you, please take a second to like and subscribe. There is so much more ahead. But to understand why that gate closing nearly destroyed her, you have to go back. Back to where Aisha's story really started. Back to the girl she was before Malik ever existed. Aisha grew up in a small rented home in Kano with her aunt, Hajia Turuntu. Her mother had passed away when Aisha was 7. Her father had followed 2 years after, not from sickness, but from grief. She had no siblings, no inheritance, only her aunt, who sold fabrics in the market and who had taken Aisha in without complaint and raised her like her own. Growing up, Aisha was not the girl who cried about what she didn't have. She was the girl who sat under lamplight after the market closed and sketched dresses in the back pages of old exercise books. She had a gift for it. The way colors talked to each other, the way fabric fell on a body, the way a hem could change a woman's entire silhouette. She dreamed of going to a fashion school in Lagos one day. She told her aunt this once, carefully, like a secret. Her aunt had looked at her and said, keep dreaming. Dreams are free. So she did. She helped at the fabric stall during the day and drew at night. She was 22 when everything changed. The day Malik Haruna drove his car through a puddle and soaked her fabric stand, she did not cry. She did not scream. She stood up straight, wiped her face, and said loud enough for the whole market road to hear, a car that expensive should come with manners. People turned to look. Market women cackled. The man behind the wheel, handsome, bewildered, not used to being spoken to like that, stepped out slowly. That was the first time Malik had ever been embarrassed by someone who had nothing. He came back the next day, and the day after that. At first, he said it was to replace the damaged fabric. Then it was to apologize properly. Then it was just to sit and talk while Aisha arranged Ankara prints and acted like his presence was perfectly ordinary. He told her later, you are the first person who ever looked at me like I was just a man. She thought that was the sweetest thing anyone had ever said. She did not know yet that to some men, the thing they find most attractive about you is also the first thing they will try to take away. He was careful with her, slow, patient. He did not rush her. He asked about her father. He listened when she talked about fashion. He brought her books about textiles from Abuja. He made her feel seen in a way she had not felt since her father died. 3 months in, she trusted him. 4 months in, she loved him. He rented a small apartment for her, better than where she lived with her aunt. Air conditioning, running water, a kitchen where she could cook without counting the gas. He told her, you are the peace I never had. She believed him. She believed him completely. She didn't know about his mother's plans. She didn't know that Hajia Toronto had already begun making inquiries about a senator's daughter in Abuja. She didn't know that the same man who held her face like it was something precious was also answering calls from that senator's family in another room. She found out the way most women find out, not dramatically, not with evidence laid on a table. She found out through silence. The messages that started taking longer to be answered. The weekends that suddenly became busy. The way he stopped saying we when he talked about the future and started saying I. Aisha discovered she was pregnant. She sat on the floor of her bathroom for a long time, holding the test strip. Her first feeling was not fear. It was happiness because she loved him and she thought love was enough. She called him 3 times before he answered. Malik, I need to see you. I'm in a meeting. It's important. He came that evening. She told him. He went very still. He didn't shout. He didn't cry. He just sat there with a face she had never seen before. Flat. Calculating. He said, "Are you sure?" "Yes." "Wow. Listen, for the fact that I love you doesn't mean I want to spend the rest of my life with you." He left. He did not call that night or the next morning. On the 7th day, Aisha opened Instagram and saw the announcement. Malik Haruna and Farida Bello, daughter of Senator Musa Bello, officially engaged. There was a photo. Him in a white agbada, her in a blush pink gown, both of them smiling like the world was small and perfect and contained only them. Aisha sat on the floor of the apartment he had rented for her and did not move for 2 hours. Then she stood up, packed one bag, and went home to her aunt. She had not told anyone she was pregnant yet. She didn't know how. She decided to go to the party, not to cause a scene. She told herself she just needed to hear from him directly that it was over, that she was wrong, that there was an explanation. You already know what happened when she got there. Aisha found out that what she heard was the truth and she fainted instantly. She woke up in a public hospital. Fluorescent lights, the smell of disinfectant. Her aunt was beside her, face drawn tight with the specific worry of a woman who has already survived too much. Her aunt was a very good woman. She didn't caution or deny Aisha. She just loved her and was always by her side. The video of what happened at the gates had already gone viral by morning. Someone had recorded everything on their phone. Malik's denial, his mother's words, the gate closing. Comments poured in by the thousands. Some people were angry on Aisha's behalf. Most were entertained. A few were cruel in the specific way that people are cruel when they feel safe behind a screen. The market women talked. Customers stopped coming to her aunt's store. One woman said loudly that she didn't want to buy fabric from a place associated with that kind of girl. Aisha heard this and said nothing. She gave birth 6 weeks early during a thunderstorm. The hospital room shook when lightning hit. One baby came out crying strong. The other came out silent. The doctors walked quickly on the second one. Aisha lay there watching them from across the room, and she prayed in the quiet, concentrated way of someone who has nothing left to bargain with. The baby breathed. Both girls survived. She named them Amira and Asia. But the joy lasted 1 day before a nurse appeared at her bedside with a paper. The hospital needs a deposit before we can continue treatment for the smaller baby. Aisha looked at the number on the paper. She looked at the ceiling. She reached up and unclasped the thin gold necklace around her neck. Malik had given it to her on her birthday. She had worn it every day since. She placed it in the nurse's hand. "Find someone to exchange this," she said. She never wore gold again after that day. Not until she could buy her own. The months that followed were the kind that age a person fast. She moved back fully into her aunt's house. The twins slept on a thin mattress between them. Money was tight and getting tighter. The fabric business had not recovered. Aisha took in sewing work at night after the baby slept, using a borrowed machine that skipped stitches every third line. She did not hear from Malik. Not once. She sketched whenever she could, whenever a baby napped, whenever her aunt took them for a walk. Her notebook filled up. Dress designs, cut patterns, color combinations she had seen in dreams. It was the only thing that felt like hers. One afternoon, a woman collapsed in the market nearby. Aisha was the first person to reach her. She helped her to the ground, loosened her collar, sent someone running for water, and stayed with her until an ambulance came. She held the woman's hand the whole time. The woman's name was Mrs. Patricia Dehinde. She came back to the market 2 weeks later, looking for the girl who had helped her. She found Aisha at the back of her aunt's store, sketching a dress design in a notebook while nursing one of the twins. Mrs. Dehinde looked at the sketches for a long time. "Where did you study?" she asked. "I didn't," Aisha said. Mrs. Dehinde smiled slowly. Even better. Mrs. Dehinde owned Dehinde Couture, a luxury fashion house in Lagos with clients across Nigeria and beyond. She was 60 years old, childless, and had spent 30 years building something extraordinary from nothing. She recognized the look on Aisha's face, the way you recognize a language you once spoke yourself. She offered Aisha a job, not as a seamstress, as a junior designer. My beautiful people, remember what God cannot do does not exist. If you're still here, go ahead and subscribe and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. Aisha sat with the offer for 3 days, and then she sat with her aunt late one night while the twins slept and the ceiling fan struggled above them. "Auntie, Mrs. Dehinde wants me to come over to the city. She mentioned that she has a big fashion company and she said I should work there. I don't want my children to grow up hearing pity in people's voices whenever they hear my name," Aisha said. Her aunt took her hand. "You are not abandoning them. You are building something for them." Aisha's eyes filled. "I am afraid they will forget me." "A mother who sacrifices for her children," her aunt said quietly, "is never forgotten." The next morning, Aisha packed one small bag. She carried each twin separately before she left, held them slowly, kissed each forehead like she was memorizing them with her lips. She whispered, "I am leaving so that one day nobody will ever look down on you." She left the little money she had saved with her aunt and promised to send more every month. She kept that promise every single month for 7 years, without fail, even in the months when she herself ate once a day. Lagos received her without ceremony. She shared a single room with 2 other women near the island. She woke before everyone and slept after everyone. She studied during lunch breaks. She stayed late in the design studio until the security guard asked her to leave. Mrs. Dehinde watched her without saying much. She gave her small tasks and watched how she handled them. She gave her larger ones and watched how she handled those. Gradually, almost without announcement, Aisha's designs began appearing in the work, first as suggestions, then as features, then as signatures. Every night without fail, Aisha called home. Some nights the twins were already asleep and she would sit on the phone in the dark, just listening to them breathe through the speaker. Her aunt would hold the phone near their faces and Aisha would close her eyes and hold that sound close like warmth. After those calls, she would sit quietly for a few minutes before sleeping. She never let herself cry for long. There was no time for long crying, only the short, controlled kind that you finish before the alarm goes off. If you are feeling this story, please subscribe and turn on notifications. What comes next will change everything. 3 years into Lagos, something happened that Aisha did not plan for. A rising Nollywood actress named Chisom wore one of Aisha's pieces to an award ceremony, a deep burgundy gown with asymmetric draping that looked like it was in motion even when you were standing still. Someone photographed her from the right angle. The photo landed on Twitter, then Instagram, then international fashion pages. People asked, who made that dress? By morning, Aisha's name was in thousands of mouths that had never heard it before. Mrs. Dende called her into the office that Monday and sat across from her with the look of someone who has been waiting for this moment. "It is time," she said, "for you to have your own label." Aisha stared at her. "I will back you," Mrs. Dende said. "But this one is yours. Your name on it, your vision, your sweat." Aisha named it Amira Asia, after her daughters. The label launched quietly. Then it grew loudly. Within 2 years, it was dressing governors' wives, Nollywood royalty, and women in diaspora who wanted something that felt like home but looked like the future. Aisha gave interviews in magazines she used to read in waiting rooms. She sat in front of cameras and spoke about fabric and resilience and the North and her children, and she never once mentioned Malik by name. She didn't have to. Back in Kano, things were different for Malik Haruna. The engagement to Farida lasted 8 months before it collapsed under the weight of his secrets. The senator's family withdrew quietly and completely, the way powerful families do when they sense trouble. The business followed. A real estate deal in Abuja went wrong. A partner disappeared with money. Investigations began. The friends who had stood beside him at that engagement party stopped answering calls. His mother's social connections dried up one by one, the way flowers do when the stem is cut. Malik got married to 3 different women, and none of them gave him a child. Because of that, he divorced each of them. Then he thought about 2 little girls in Kano. Let us see what happened next. 7 years after that rainy night at the gate, a convoy of 3 black SUVs drove through the streets of Kano and stopped in front of a new building where an old fabric store used to be. The building was wide, freshly painted, and had a sign above the door that said, "Amira Asia Fashion Academy, free training for girls who dare to dream." Aisha stepped out of the middle car. She was 30 years old. She was wearing a cream ensemble she had designed herself. Her braids were perfect. Her posture was the posture of a woman who had carried heavy things for a long time and had decided to stand up straight anyway. The people in the market stopped. Then they began talking. Then they began clapping. The women who had gossiped, the customers who had abandoned her aunt's store, the neighbors who had whispered, they all stood there now watching her walk past. She did not perform for them. She simply walked. She went straight to her aunt's house first, before anything else, before any press or any photos. She sat in the same room where she used to sketch dresses by lamplight, and she held her daughters, now 7 years old, tall and curious and full of words, and she did not speak for a long time. They both hugged each other with tears from their eyes. Amira looked at her and said, "Mama, you smell the same." Aisha laughed, and then she cried, and then she laughed again. Malik came 3 days later. Not announced, not with lawyers. He came with his mother, in a car that was not as new as it used to be, and he asked the academy staff if he could speak with her. Aisha made them wait 45 minutes, not out of cruelty. She just needed to be ready. She met them in a small office at the academy. Plain chairs, a table, afternoon light coming through a window. She sat across from them and did not offer tea. Malik looked older, smaller somehow. The particular kind of small that happens when a man has lost the power that used to hold him up from the outside. His mother's diamond earrings were gone. Malik said, "I made the biggest mistake of my life." Aisha looked at him for a moment. "No," she said calmly. "Your biggest mistake was believing that a woman becomes worthless after rejection." His mother looked at the table. Her eyes were wet. She began to say something. An apology, something about youth and fear and wrong advice? And Aisha held up one hand, not unkindly. I have already forgiven you, she said. Both of you. Not for your sake, for mine. Carrying anger is heavy, and I am done carrying heavy things. Malik exhaled slowly. The girls, he said. They are mine, Aisha said. They always were. But they deserve to know where they came from. I will not take that from them. She paused. But understand me clearly. You will know them as their father. Nothing more. There is no road back to me. That road is closed. I closed it myself, the same night your gate closed on my face. His mother wiped her eyes. Aisha stood. The meeting was over. As they were leaving, Malik stopped at the door and turned back. How did you do it? He asked. After everything. How? Aisha picked up a fabric sample from the table and turned it over in her hands. Some doors close to protect your future, she said. Not destroy it. That gate closing was the best thing that ever happened to me. I just didn't know it yet. She watched him leave. Then she went back to her daughters. That evening, Aisha sat outside the academy with Auntie, Amira, and Asia as the sun went down over Kano. The city was loud, the way it always was. Horns, call to prayer, market sounds, someone's radio. The same city that had watched her fall. The same sky that had rained on her when she was on her knees. Amira leaned against her shoulder. Asia was drawing something in a notebook. Aisha looked down. It was a dress design, rough and childish and full of color. She smiled. Aisha had not come back for revenge. She had come back as proof. Proof that the girl they dragged away from that gate was not the end of the story. She was only the beginning. She had built a company. She had raised 2 daughters alone in the hardest years of her life. She had forgiven without forgetting. She had chosen peace over bitterness and still, somehow, ended up with everything. Not because life was fair. Life was not fair. It never had been. But because she had refused, through every humiliation, every sleepless night, every phone call that broke her heart quietly, she had absolutely refused to let anyone's rejection become her definition. The sun finished setting. The city lights came on, and she smiled the smile of a woman who had nothing left to prove to anyone. Thank you for watching this story until the end. If Aisha's journey moved you, if you cried, if you cheered, if you felt something, please subscribe to this channel and share this video with someone who needs to hear it today. Stories like this are why we do this. See you in the next one. Don't forget, we love you.